Developer commentary time. Only like 10 months after the game came out. I'm not very good at this YouTube thing, am I? Hey guys, it's Workday, back with another non-filler upload. It's shocking, I know. I promised, like, forever ago that I would make a developer commentary video for Night 6 when it came out, and then I never did that, and it went forgot about for 10 months. So, better late than never, I guess. I'm gonna try to get back into the swing of things and make some more non-filler content. Maybe get back to that 3 ONaF game series I started. That could be fun. But you're not here for that right now, oh no. So without further ado, let us get into the One Night at Flumpty's Ultimate Concepts Developer Commentary, or as I've dubbed it for this particular video, Creator Commentary. I'm original. Alright, let's get into it. Our story begins in July of 2020. COVID-19 was still a big threat at the time, and I was cooped up in my house during summer vacation. It was during this time that a YouTube video came up in my feed, a video that, little did I know, was about to totally set the stage of my online presence going forward.
I'm definitely late to the party on this one, but welcome to One Night at Flumpty's.
I remembered this game. I watched videos of YouTubers playing it way back in 2016. After I watched Dan play it, I searched it up on Google, and in doing so, rediscovered ONaF 2, as well as finding out about 1 Week at Flumpty's fan-made and ONaF 4 fan-made. When I found out a third game was on the way via the Fazbear Fanverse initiative, I was pretty ecstatic, and immediately I started playing the old demo of OWaF fan-made.
Hey guys, it's Workday, and the game we're going to be playing today is 1 Week at Flumpty's.
Dear God, my voice was definitely something. Moving on. In late February of 2021, COVID-19 was at its peak, and all of my 8th grade classes were happening virtually. It was all fine and dandy, except for one tiny, minuscule little problem. 8th grade me was bored. I'll never be able to explain exactly what drove me to do what I did next. Maybe it was a stroke of genius. Maybe it was the familiar call of destiny. Maybe 8th grade me just took one too many Flintstones vitamin gummies that day, but I opened a fresh Google Slides presentation, loaded up Pixlr, and began my work. I masterfully photoshopped aspects of Eyesore onto the cameras of ONaF 1. Such exquisite craftsmanship, rivaling the work of the great Jonachrome himself. I mean, look at that. Would you even know that that wasn't the real game? Okay, in all seriousness, the first concept was a piping hot plate of sloppy editing and poor Photoshop. All the older concept videos are. Still, the video was well received, and it remains one of the top videos on my channel to this day. Afterwards, I announced a new series on my channel, ONaF Ultimate Concepts. I uploaded ONaF 1 Owl, revamped the Eyesore concept, still bad though, and ONaF 1 Bvowel. These videos did equally as well as the original, and I realized there was much more I could do with this. It was then I made the decision that would forever alter my presence in the ONaF community. And here is where the creator commentary can truly begin. The Night 3 concept was uploaded just 3 months after the trailer for the series was uploaded. You may be asking yourself, Workday, why did it take so long? I don't know. The video showcased my takes on what Grunkfuss and Redman could potentially do in the full game. Since this wasn't a game itself and I wasn't required to make it super amazing, I was able to sprinkle in a bit more humor to this night. Things like Grunkfuss's head on a plate and Redman being afraid of water. Yes, that was the joke that was intended. I realize it's not very well conveyed here. I also did this to provide a bit of suspense for the later nights. My thought process was that by making the third night less spooky, it would make the others seem more scary by comparison, which sort of worked. One mechanic that wasn't very well conveyed in the original video was that Grunkfuss is actually blind in this concept. My idea was that in this game, his eyes would never leave his weird, closed, star-shaped socket hole things, allowing you to lead him around with the audio lures. And yes, his jump scare is just an awful green screen of his ONaF 3 one. Don't laugh. I've gotten better since then, I promise! Redman was similarly played more as a joke. His pop-up ads and his red screen of death are all full of jokes and references, which was a fun thing for me to be able to mess around with at the time. I drew and animated his jump scare myself as well. Don't laugh, I'm better now, I promise! Night 4 is a special one because I took it a bit more seriously than Night 3. Instead of all the poses being lazily photoshopped or traced, they're all actually drawn with the help of my buddy Alex. Except for this one of Champ, but we don't talk about that one. I knew I had to come up with a cool gimmick for eyesore that wasn't just blam again, so I made them stay in the pit and need to be flashed occasionally. I also gave them the ability to create tunnels in the hallway cams, which made sense to me because dinosaur, big claws, dig, tunnel, dinosaurs did that, maybe? I also made them steal the laser button upon entering the office, meaning it was a guaranteed death if you lost track of them for too long. It also served as a bit of a reminder that this is all happening in Flumpty's mind, because, I mean, how else would a corpse dinosaur steal a button off a door? I've always viewed Champ and Chump as the sort of brother-ish characters, given their connection to each other before their death and their similarities after, so I put Chump on the beanbag and made it so that if you don't keep him happy, he'd scream and wake up Champ, making them kill you. It was also an excuse to use this absolutely hot fire banger of a song! The cutscene afterwards was meant to reflect the lore doodles from ONaF 2, but in hindsight they don't really capture the same effect. And yes, I put eyesore in the wrong door. I know that I put eyesore in the wrong door. I'm better now, I promise! In between the Night 4 and 5 concepts, the OWaF dev team released the extended demo for the game, releasing Night 3 and showing all kinds of teasers for both Nights 4 and Night 6. Upon seeing the new designs for Champ and Chump, I knew I just had to make a concept with them. Decompiling the game files also let me use the updated cameras from the extended demo, so that was fun. In the revamped version, I carried over from the ending of Night 3, where Redman loses all of his Discord kittens and has a temper tantrum and knocks out your lasers. The power to the office was cut off, and the updated Champ and Chump designs were put in, Champ being blind and Chump being deaf. Champ would stumble his way to the office, occasionally appearing at the door. If you didn't make any noise, camera, door buttons, etc., he'd leave. I also added voice lines and sound effects to both him and Chump to make it all feel a bit more spooky.
Give me back my face. It hurts.
Chump still revolved around the radio, but to make the idea a bit more challenging, I added the concept of radio power. You'd need to charge the radio, or it would run out of power, causing Chump to wake up. The main track of this night was a piece called Ballad of the Corpses, made by my good friend Adamination, which he was nice enough to let me use. The jump scares and door appearances were actually animated this time, with the help of my good friend Brando. They did pretty much all the animating for both the Night 4 concept and the Night 6 game, as well as the coding, and contributed a lot of ideas. Simply put, this series just would not exist without Brando and Adam, and I'm very thankful to have had their help. Anyway, the Night 4 concept was fun to revamp because the power mechanic and the new designs allowed me to do more concept-wise that I couldn't do with the main characters with the power on. Night 5 is a bit of a weird one because even I wasn't sure what to do. I thought about having Night 5 be a Flumpty night, but that seemed a little bit too derivative. I actually briefly played around with the idea of making a family of Empty Bempty, a collection of Easter eggs called the Flumplings. The idea was that they'd randomly bounce around and like mess with equipment or something, I don't know. The one thing I definitely did want to do was have some kind of oh shit moment where everything fades out and suddenly becomes all nightmarish and scary like ONaF 3's hard-boiled mode. So I threw together an office with all the characters dead inside, made the halls red, drew 2 sets of poses for before and after 4 AM, and threw in the Electro Jam song, which was obviously an Electro Swing parody. I also made a custom phone call for this night, which was something I hadn't done up until that point. The mechanic behind Flumpty was, in hindsight, really not well conveyed at all. The idea was that there were 3 different Flumptys on the map, all coming for you at once, and you would have to use the camera flash to occasionally freeze them to throw them all out of sync, since you can only use 1 door laser at a time. Huh? What? No, this isn't just Night 2 of the Joy of Creation, shut up. The cutscene after Night 5 shows Flumpty looking into the mirror and realizing what he's done, just as Jonachrome described it. However, one thing I absolutely wanted to include was a funny record scratch moment where Flumpty just nopes out of there, so that's what I did. This, of course, results in the bad ending, where Golden is free to get up to any evil deeds he wants, and give Redman his Discord kittens back. The idea of a flesh-gathering concept was actually suggested by my friend Pack Official, which mirrored the FNAF 3 gameplay feeling in a way that felt satisfying to me. You know, play the game over again to get the good ending. Gathering up pieces of the characters and using them to build a terrifying chimera of all of them was something I'd thought of for a while, and it was really fun to be able to do it, and having the egg in Cam 1 actually not be Flumpty was also a fun twist I wanted to play around with. Alright, now, let's get into the part you all really want to hear about. Over the course of developing the series, I didn't really have a lot of ideas for Night 6. But one thing I never would have thought of was making it into an actual game. The original idea was to just lazily Photoshop edited ONaF 2 and 3 rooms together, and then like randomly drop Golden Flumpty in there or something, but let's be honest, that would have sucked. I was stuck on deciding what to do when the unexpected happened. The OWaF dev team dropped a trailer showcasing some Night 6 content, including golden character designs and a Night 6 office. And yes, I got permission from SIP to use those in the game. I'm not an asshole. After that trailer dropped, I realized I needed to go way, way bigger. So I consulted with the rest of the concept team, put together a new map, and we all decided to make the concept into a full-on game reality. The decision to make all the cameras the same color palette and texture was to sort of establish the fact that this is all in Flumpty's mind, which is slowly being taken over and corrupted by Golden Flumpty's hive mind. The cameras are sprinkled with references to the other games as well as some fanverse games, and I viewed that as sort of a sign that Flumpty's mind hasn't been totally taken over yet and that some of his memories are still intact. When it came to the mechanics of the office, we were sort of limited at first. The Night 6 office shown in the third OWaF trailer only had one door, and there wasn't really anything we could do with all 9 characters just in the one door. For a while, we were stumped before the game even began, but luckily Adam came up with another iteration of the office, adding the left and right wings to it, and that's what made it into the final cut of the game. The choice to make the lasers defective was also fun to play around with. Blam's door lasers stay active for 5 seconds before breaking, and then have a cooldown for 10 seconds before they come back online. The cooldown was meant to make the laser usage more deliberate, because if you do it recklessly, Blam might show up when the lasers are on cooldown and kill you. Hybrid's lasers only work when you hold down the button, so you have to hold the lasers specifically when they're coming at you. Also, there is no creature in the office, there is no creature in the office, there is no creature in the office. The snap mechanic was a really cool idea for us to implement, mostly because of the lore implications it has. The idea behind the snap was, since you're playing as Flumpty, and your mind is being taken over by Golden Flumpty, it makes sense for you to not have 100% of your powers. The snap was a way to convey that you still retain enough power to send various characters away, but not enough power to completely obliterate the enemies like you would be able to normally. The game begins more with corrupted Blam, the little golden guy in the pizza hat. Blam follows his tried-and-true nature of neutrality, following a set path to the office and warning you he's about to enter by throwing on the Kevin Jr. attire. The design of Blam is pretty derivative of how he looks in the trailers and teasers for the game, and Sip was nice enough to let us use the jump scare from the third trailer, which is really nice. His door animation was, of course, done by the wonderful Brando, and I added a fun little scurrying sound effect when he leaves the door, because what is he if not a silly little guy? The design for Hybrid was a super fun one, because while the majority of his design had been shown in the third OWaF trailer, the idea of putting the owl in the toilet chained to his back was super cool to me, and I liked the mental image of the wings extending from the toilet. So we stuck that bird in the toilet! Ooh, yeah! I don't know what that was, I'm sorry. We needed a new name for this creature, because Corrupted Bavowel didn't really feel right. So eventually, we came up with a list of names, and Hybrid was one of them, and that felt super nice to me, so we stuck with it. In this game, instead of crawling out of a toilet, he crawls out of a sewage pipe, another mental image that seems super cool to me. Similarly to Blam, I added a sound effect for when he gets stopped by the door. This time the sound was a combination of a beaver chittering and an owl hooting, which, I mean, that makes perfect sense, does it not? Grunkfus was a weird one because, let's be honest, he's a very strange dude. I knew I wanted him to mirror the ONaF 2 mechanic of popping out of a hole in the wall, but I didn't have any ideas for how the player could counter him. Then, one night at like 2 AM, I woke up in a cold sweat and was like, oh my god, the nose. And that's what we ended up putting in the game. This also served as a mini reference to the Night 3 concept, where Grunkfus's nose could be honked in the cams. His design was pretty straightforward, mostly just a golden egg-shelled version of his normal design, with the one notable difference being his third eye, especially in hard-boiled mode where he has all three of them. Redman's design wasn't a huge focus because he never really appears outside the extras menu. We were originally going to include a Redman pop-up game like the Bonzi Redman in the extended demo, but when we were making questions for him, it seemed a bit too derivative. So, Brando and I put our heads together and we made it a Pokemon-esque battle situation. Losing the fight or taking too long will result in him shutting down your monitor, like an asshole. Also, it was an excuse to give Flumpty a gun, and I mean, why wouldn't I do that? For Champ and Chump, I wanted to carry over the vibe that the two of them had in the original Night 4 concept without them being a direct copy. So instead of it being instant death if Chump wakes up, we made it so that Champ moves ahead in phases, depending on how many times you let Chump wake up and jump scare you. Chump is more of a phantom in this night than an actual physical entity, which is why his jump scare doesn't instantly kill you. It's more a way to offset your focus while he draws Champ closer, and it's an incentive not to look at the security cameras for too long. Not gonna lie, Eyesore was super fun to make. Similarly to Chump, Eyesore is also a phantom and behaves much like Phantom Balloon Boy in FNAF 3. The idea of them causing hallucinations when they jump scare you is also a reference to their mechanic in the second version of the ONaF 1 Eyesore concept, which was a fun reference for me to sprinkle in there. Another idea I was really hyped to put in there was the idea of Eyesore's appearance being more rotten and decayed, which is why I made them have visible skulls in their jump scare. It was also an excuse for Brando to animate a more elaborate Eyesore jump scare, which they were super happy with. The true villain all along has been Golden Flumpty. I knew I wanted to include something special for him, but I also didn't want to make his mechanics super big and elaborate, because all the other characters had pretty complex mechanics on their own. So I gave him the same Golden Freddy-esque mechanic he's always had, but we gave him a whole jump scare sequence to put him apart from the other characters.
Oh, but Workday, that doesn't make any sense. He's the true villain all along. He should be ridiculously overpowered.
Wrong! It makes perfect sense, because Golden Flumpty has this whole gang of corrupted characters in your mind that he can use to tear it apart. You really think he's gonna be doing the work himself? Of course not! He's gonna make his minions do it for him! He's just gonna pop in every now and then to remind you who's really in charge here! Amalgamation is, without question, my absolute favorite part of the series. Making a twisted chimera of all the main characters was one of the main reasons I wanted to make OWaF concepts in the first place. I'd had Amalgam planned for a very long time, since the start of the series, and I made various allusions and teasers to him leading up to the release of Night 6. Amalgamation is the result of the flesh gathering you did after the Night 5 concept. I've seen some confusion around Amalgam's existence, so let me elaborate a little bit on that. The biggest question I've seen is, how does Amalgam exist when the other characters are also after you? And the answer to that is, the corrupted gang are not actual physical beings. They don't exist outside of Flumpty's mind. They are Golden's version of the actual Flumpty gang, which Amalgam consists of. Amalgam and Golden are the only ones that physically exist outside of Flumpty's mind. Some people have also had trouble seeing exactly what parts of Amalgam belong to what characters, so I'll pull up a diagram of all of it here. I wanted Amalgam to have a bigger role than the others, so I gave him multiple mechanics that mirror the mechanics of every other character. He can show up at any of the 3 doors, as well as dropping in from the ceiling through a Grunkfus portal. If he shows up at the side doors, use the lasers to send him back. If he shows up in front of you, snap at him until he leaves. And if he shows up in the center door, Most people think you have to snap him, but you actually only have to look at him to make him leave, which was sort of a mini reference to Jonachrome's ONaF 3 dream. I knew I wanted him to activate right at 3 AM, because that way his appearance would provide a difficulty curve that was steep enough to let you know, oh, the game just got real. I wanted his appearance to feel extra special, so we added the egg cracking sound effects every hour as he slowly leaves the egg, and then we gave him his own theme song. Yes, I know I misspelled his name. You don't have to keep telling me that I misspelled his name. His name is not Alamgamegshin, it is Amalgamate. Pretty much all the music in the game was composed by my friend Adam, who's also the developer of games like ONaF Mountain Madness and ONaF Plus, with the exception of the All You're Based song, which was created by me, because, well, of course it was. The ending cutscene was also drawn by Adam, and it definitely captures the feel of the ONaF 2 rare screens better than the Night 4 one that I made. The cutscene showcases Golden Flumpty dying after Flumpty breaks his control over him. Being a manifestation of Flumpty's evilness, now that Flumpty has reformed, there is no evilness to sustain his existence. However, Golden being dead doesn't stop Amalgam, who shows up to wreck your but he doesn't really stand a chance against full power Flumpty. Flumpty totally no-diffs him, and then rips up his immunity to the plot, which is also the OWaF cancelled screen, which I thought was really funny. He then goes off to a hill in the sunset and dies, fading into the afterlife and leaving his crew behind as a force of good in New Dork City. His crew was reformed with him, Champ and Chump are freed and turned back into people, and I'm sure this isn't a setup to any potential future thing. Another thing I definitely wanted to do was implement a hard-boiled mode with altered mechanics and more lore, because, you know me, Workday loves his lore. I'm not going to talk too much about hard-boiled mode because all the new mechanics are spelled out for you as soon as you start. The night opens up with a brand new phone call, this time mirroring the ONaF 4 phone call by being a Workday Chart 104 radio announcement. I bring up Dream Theory because the FNAF movie had just come out and it was a big thing at the time, I don't know, and because it relates to the lore. After beating the night, the 6 AM is an alarm clock as opposed to the 6 AM theme of the main night. This is because hard-boiled mode is actually a dream, not from Flumpty or Golden, but from Champ. My thought process was that Champ, now a human again, would be so traumatized by his experience with Flumpty and as a skinless corpse, it would make perfect sense for him to experience vivid, traumatizing nightmares about the whole thing, which is why the radio call says, "Then why are you back here?" and why the night ends with an alarm clock sound. The cutscene afterwards shows corrupted Flumpty and normal Blam talking after the death of the beaver, which was a cool idea to me and also gave me an excuse to use this joke. Afterwards, corrupted Flumpty goes out to the secret space behind the wall, and we're treated to a view of Amalgam being created, in the middle of a metal room that we have never seen anywhere else before. It has never happened, not even once. Then it pulls a dramatic 10 years later subtitle, cutting to another radio announcement read by New Dork City's other radio host, Dorky Dan, who's voiced by my, at the time, boyfriend, now my ex. I'm gonna have to recast that voice actor at some point. Oh god, I just realized. Anyway, Dan covers the 10th anniversary of Flumpty's death, the reformation of his crew, and reveals that, uh-oh, Workday Chart 104 has gone missing! The horror! How will this affect his upload schedule? Nah, who am I kidding? It's not going to. This rewards you the game's second star, giving you 2 out of 3 of them. How do you get the third one, you ask? I don't know. Take this image. Maybe it'll help. The development of this game, and of the concept series as a whole, has been a super fun experience, and I'm very grateful to the ONaF community for enjoying 8th grade me's silly projects for so long. I started the series in 8th grade. I'm a senior in high school now. In that time, we've achieved over 3 million views on the channel. 3 million! That is insane to me! I never would have dreamed 4 years ago that One Night at Flumpty's content would grow my platform to the degree that it has today. I've got plans for more ONaF content going forward, but full transparency with all of you here, I have been feeling a little boxed in with it recently. I do want to branch out and do other things again. Honestly, I just really like playing Minecraft. I might start another series with that someday. It's been a while. Regardless of my personal feelings about OWaF, I love this franchise to death, and it is a big part of my life. The community's been mostly welcoming, and I'm super grateful for it. Whatever I end up doing next, I will never forget the egg game that kickstarted my success here. Until then, I'm Workday Chart 104, and I'll see you guys next time.